Hello, I'm Nicola Humber and welcome to this Unbound Writing Masterclass. I'm going to dive straight in just a second. If it looks like I've got a wind machine, I've just got a fan going. It's super hot here today and quite humid, so my hair is extra unbound. It's always quite unbound, but it's extra unbound today. Anyway, let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen. It's good to have you here with me. Share screen. There we go. Here we go. Let's get started. So, as I said, this is the Unbound Writing Masterclass, and this is designed to help you write the book that changes your life. Okay, so it's likely, if you're here, that you have been feeling the call to write some kind of transformational book, or maybe you're in the process of writing a transformational book. So you want it to create transformation for your readers, but I'm also really interested in helping people to write books that activate change in their lives, that create this positive change in their lives, in their businesses, as well as creating change for your readers. So why have I felt called to share this training? Well, I know from my own personal experience and working with many, many other writers over the past few years in particular, that writing a book is one of the most powerful things you can do to create deep transformation in your life, in your business, if you have one. And, you know, you can certainly start a business through writing a book, but also in the world. There's kind of these three levels of transformation that we can access when we write books, particularly in this unbound way. And if there's one thing that's needed right now in the world is deep transformation. You know, we're actually in this process of deep transformation, and we have an opportunity to be part of that and to bring our piece of the puzzle, so that we can birth the new ways that are so very much needed in the world. And writing a book is a really great way to do this. And I know so many women, I tend mostly to work with women or those who identify as women, but you know, so many people I know have been feeling the call to write a book, and sometimes for a very long time, and that may be the case for you. I know it was for me before I wrote my first book. But most get stuck in some kind of procrastination, doubt, and distraction. And I know this because I've certainly been caught in all three of those. But I speak to so many, like I said, women in particular, who have been feeling a call to write a book, and they never get to the point of actually doing that, or they might make a start and then drift off and, you know, towards something else, and never get to that point of completion. And that makes me sad because, like I said, this is an opportunity to create this deep transformation, not just for yourself, but for the world, and certainly for the people you're connected with or that you will connect with. It's your opportunity to really share your unique gifts, your unique magic. And when you don't feel able to do that, not only do you lose out, but I feel the world loses out as well. So I want you to know that if you're feeling called to write a book, it is no accident, okay? It's, you know, I know sometimes imposter syndrome can creep in and we can think, oh, I don't know, is this really for me? Am I kidding myself? No. If you've been feeling the call, like if it comes through you, it's for you. And I don't know who said that, but in my experience, it is completely true. If you're feeling the call, it is meant for you. And the time is now. Like I said, we're in this time which I call the quickening, like the speed of the speed that transformation is happening is so fast now. So if you procrastinate on writing your book for another year or even another 6 months, the world would have moved on. You would have moved on, actually. And then it's kind of hard to go back and actually connect with those ideas you had, like even a few months ago, because the world is changing so rapidly. So if you're feeling the call, and I don't mean this as a sense of pressure, but there is a real urgency right now. If you're feeling the call to share something in the form of a book, I would encourage you to start now. I want to make it non-negotiable for you to write your book and release it into the world, and preferably within the next year. In fact, it's completely possible for you to go from the point of thinking about writing your book to having it published and out in the world within 1 year. And I have worked with many women to help them do that. And again, this is not about rushing. It's not about pressurizing yourself. You allow your book to come through in the way that it wants to, in a way that feels good for you. It can still feel really spacious, and you can go from the point of thinking about it to releasing it into the world within 1 year. So by this time next year, you could easily have your book out there in the world and probably be working on your second one. Because if you have the call to write one book, then I can pretty much guarantee there are going to be more that will follow along. Okay. So what I'm going to be sharing during this training with you today, first of all, I'm going to be talking about the soul-sucking, paralysing fears, doubts, and stories that are keeping you stuck right now. I think it's really important to kind of out these, to get them out into the open. So that you know you're not alone if these things are coming up for you. And also I'm going to talk about how you can make them irrelevant when you embark on this unbound writing journey. Okay. I'm going to be sharing the 4 specific stages of writing the book you're really here to write at this time. The one that will change your life and make space for the same level of transformation in each of your readers. So there are probably a lot of books that you could write. I know that you will have acquired a lot of experience, a lot of expertise, a lot of information over the years. I'm interested in helping women to write books that, you know, that really specific book that is wanting to come through you right now. The book that you need in order to access like the deepest levels of your gift and the next step of your journey, whatever that may be, and also the book that is most needed in the world at this time. So I'm going to be sharing the 4 stages that will help you to do that, and how to move forward with your book writing in the most potent way. I'm all about potency. So I think I said that, I said something about it being easy on the last slide. I think I used the word easy, and I don't want to be misleading. I'm not saying that writing a book is easy. It can be an easeful process. We can bring ease into the process, but when you are writing a transformational book, it's pretty much always going to involve some kind of challenge, kind of a heroine's journey. But that's what makes it really rich and juicy. So who am I? You may know me already. I'm going to be really brief on this bit, but just to give you a bit of an idea of who I am, who this woman is, who's talking about writing books in this unbound way. I'm Nicola Humber. I am an author of actually 3 transformational books now. My 3rd one is coming out in October 2020, depends when you're watching this, but I'm the author of Heal Your Inner Good Girl, Unbound, and Unbound Writing. the new book, which is all about how to write a transformational book. But actually, when I haven't always been a writer. Well, actually, excuse me while I contradict myself. I guess I have always been a writer. Right from when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an author. It's one of my dreams. I really enjoyed writing. I really enjoyed reading. But I lost that part of myself along the way. Actually, very early on in my life, I received the message that actually the way I was writing was maybe not good enough and that I should focus on other things. I was the archetypal good girl, did very well at school, so was encouraged to focus on more academic pursuits rather than creativity. So I followed that path, did a degree in business, built a career in finance, did that for many, many years up until my mid-30s, when I reached a point where I knew I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't go into that office and be a financial planner, be a financial advisor anymore. But I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. And at the time, I was in a pretty destructive, like toxic relationship. I was in a job that I really didn't like. And, from the outside, probably my life looked great, looked successful, but I was really, like, my soul was dying inside. Might sound a bit extreme, but I'm sure maybe some of you can resonate with that. So I just kept asking the question, what can I do with my life? What should I do? And I actually went to a house spa for the weekend with my sister when I was at this point where I was thinking, I just have no idea what I want to do with my life. And a hypnotherapist was doing a demonstration, and I'd never had hypnotherapy before, never had any interest in it. But decided kind of intuitively to go and see this demonstration. And the woman who was doing the demonstration, to be honest, she was pretty eccentric. She was quite unbound, I guess. With the way she was talking about the power of the subconscious mind and how we can kind of release ourselves from these kind of unconscious patterns that we've been holding, it really spoke to me. And I kind of knew, I felt this sense of knowing in my body, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to be a hypnotherapist. Like I said, even though I had no kind of experience of it, I'd never had hypnotherapy myself. But I kind of followed that sense of knowing. I left my job in finance. I retrained as a coach and a hypnotherapist, and I thought that would be it. But it wasn't. I thought I would set up my hypnotherapy practice and that would be me. But actually, that was just the beginning of my journey. And that's led me, it's been a 10-year journey so far. It's led me to building an online business where I've generally been supporting women with different areas of their lives and businesses. That led to me writing my first book, Heal Your Inner Good Girl. Not kill your inner good girl, by the way. Some people think it's kill, it's heal, H-E-A-L. I take a very kind approach to moving beyond any blocks or limitations we may have. So wrote my first book, Heal Your Inner Good Girl, which immediately cleared the way for the second book, Unbound, which was a deeply transformational process for me to write that. And that led to me founding a publishing imprint. How did that happen? It's a whole other story. It wasn't planned, it wasn't expected, but I founded the Unbound Press in November 2018. And again, that was a completely intuitive decision. I had no idea really what I was doing at the time, but followed those breadcrumbs of inspiration, and the most amazing authors have joined us since we started, some of whom you can see on this slide in the top right hand corner when we were running an Unbound Writing workshop. Very early on in my journey from walking the Unbound path, I met my husband, Mr. H, who you can see here. We're on the beach at Lake Ontario. I actually split my time now between the UK and Rochester in upstate New York, which is on the shore of Lake Ontario. Mr. H got a job here a few years ago, so we had the opportunity to relocate, which has been wonderful, living unbound in that way. And yeah, get to kind of write my own books and work with other incredible writers who are writing these like deeply magical transformational books. It is just such a joy, and it has all come through my writing. I really feel that I've anchored more deeply into my gifts through, like, since I started to write and since I published my first book. And I want that for you too. All of these opportunities can present themselves when we really step into our gifts in this way. So maybe just thinking about where you are right now. Maybe you've been feeling the call to write a book, and perhaps ever since you were a little girl. Like me, like I said, I wanted to write a book right back from when I can remember, but I pushed that dream away because I didn't think it was for me. I didn't think it was possible for me. And I speak to so many women who, you know, have always wanted to write a book or always knew that there was a book within them. So maybe that's you too. Maybe you felt guided to write a book. This is something I hear from a lot of women, actually. Maybe they've had some kind of reading, or people have told them, oh my goodness, you should write a book. Or, you know, you work with some other kind of guides and you've received this message that, you know, you're meant to write a book. And again, this is something that happened to me. This is what kind of finally led to me committing to writing my first book, because I was totally lost in my business at the time. I'd kind of been doing okay, but then everything dried up and I had no real idea how I wanted to move forwards. And I went for an angel card reading with my dear friend Isabel Gadra, who is actually an Unbound writer now. She's in the Unbound Writing Mastermind. She's just joined this year, which is wonderful. And one of the first messages that came through when she connected with the angels was, have you written your book yet? You need to write your book. And I knew then, okay, this is what I'm meant to focus on next. So I did. And like I said, it's cleared the way for all of this other magic in my life. And I hear this from a surprising number of the women that I connect with who are thinking about writing a book. They've received some kind of guidance. So maybe you have too. You don't have to have received that guidance though. If you have the feeling within you, if you have the desire within you, then it is absolutely meant to be. That is a form of guidance in itself. Perhaps you've started to write a book, but you've got stuck in the process. Maybe because of some kind of fear or doubt, and maybe it's one of the ones that I'm going to be talking about shortly. Maybe you've kind of started it and then drifted away towards some other project, got distracted by something else. Or maybe you know, the initial commitment just wasn't strong enough to carry you through. Maybe you didn't feel supported enough to carry on when things got a bit tough, because that initial momentum can kind of keep you going for a while, and then it's easy to lose that sense of momentum and motivation and just drift off towards something else, or tell yourself, oh, maybe I'll do this kind of next month, next quarter, next year, and it becomes something you never complete, which again makes me very sad. Or maybe you've already written a book, but you're feeling called to write something that really fully expresses the truest essence of who you are. Because there's lots of information out there about writing books. And most of those are based on kind of the premise of like purely sharing information And I believe there are three types of books. You know, there's books that just provide information, which can be helpful, you know, but really, you know, you can Google for most information. It doesn't necessarily need to be in a book, but you know, it can be helpful. There are books that provide inspiration. So when somebody reads them, they feel inspired. They may see things differently. It may give them like some kind of shift of perception. And then there are books that activate, that create this sense of activation, where when somebody reads them, something changes within them. They feel the sense, something ignites within them, and they feel called to action. They feel called to show up differently in the world, to do something different in the world. And these are the kind of books that I'm interested in. I want you to write a book that creates activation for your readers, but also for you, that activates something within you. So, yeah, maybe you're identifying with one of those, or maybe more than one, but if you are absolutely in the right place. But like I said, maybe one of these doubts is holding you back. Just going to take a sip of water. So maybe you believe that you need a bigger audience before writing a book. You have some kind of small list shame or imposter syndrome going on, and this is something I hear a lot. And it doesn't surprise me, because we are kind of taught that we need to have a big audience before we can even think about writing a book. You know, you have to have the platform before you write a book. And certainly if you are writing for a traditional publisher, they will expect you to have a large existing audience, existing platform, before they would offer you a publishing deal. But now there are so many other ways of releasing your book into the world. You do not have to go down the traditional publishing route. You may want to, and it may be the best option for you, which is fantastic. But there are, like I said, many other ways. You can self-publish, you can publish your book through a hybrid publisher, something like the Unbound Press. And certainly with the Unbound Press, I'm very committed for us to work with authors whose work, you know, is really important, and it is transformational, but they wouldn't be able to go down the traditional publishing route, either because they don't have a big enough audience, or maybe what they're writing about is so new and unbound that maybe a traditional publisher wouldn't get it. But anyway, the way that I choose to work with this doubt that you need a bigger audience before writing a book is when I work with writers, and this is part of the Unbound Writing process, is actually to grow your audience, to build an audience, to create community as you write your book. Okay, so you don't have to wait until you have a big audience to write it. You start writing your book, and that becomes a way for you to grow your audience. And that also helps you to move through kind of imposter syndrome and any fears or doubts that come up around that. So we kind of turn this doubt on its head. That's what I tend to do a lot. Maybe you have this doubt coming up, like, who am I to do this? Who would want to read what I have to share? Like, this is pretty much standard, to be honest. This comes up for everybody. And it can come up right throughout the writing process. Like earlier today, I was speaking to somebody, she's just come to the end of writing her final manuscript, one of the Unbound Press authors, and she's like, just got all of this fear now around kind of anyone else reading it and whether it's complete rubbish. And, you know, and I get that, because that comes up for me every time I write a book. Before I start writing it, and certainly when I finish it, it's like, oh, if I spent all this time and maybe it's complete rubbish? And it's not, but these are very normal fears and doubts that come up. And they come up at a mind level because your mind is there to kind of keep you safe and keep you protected. And when you're writing a book, particularly in this unbound way, when you're writing a deeply transformational book, then things are going to change for you. You're going to create change in your life, in your business, and in the world, and your mind will do everything it can to stop you from doing that and in keeping things familiar and comfortable. So that's why some of these fears and doubts can come up. But also, and this is something we do in the Unbound Writing Mastermind, we really turn this "who am I to do this" question on its head and like use it in a positive way. It's like, yeah, why are you? You know, who are you to write that specific book that is wanting to come through you? And looking at all the different layers of your experience that you've had throughout your lifetime up until this point, which makes you the perfect person to write your book. Nobody else can write the book that you're meant to write, or the books that you're meant to write. Only you can do them in the unique way that you will be writing them. Okay, so you are absolutely the perfect person to write your book. You may not believe that yet, but stick with me and you will. And also, you know, knowing that these fears and doubts come up for everybody helps to normalize them. So you can just go, okay, I know that's there, but I'm going to choose to move beyond it. And when I say everyone, I mean even like the best-selling authors in the world experience this kind of mind chatter. Another doubt that can come up is I should be completely clear about what I want to include in my book before I start writing. You know, you need to have it all mapped out. You need to know what all your chapters are going to be. You need to have a book proposal kind of written. You need to have all the detail before you even think about starting to write your book. And again, I like to turn this one on its head because I believe you gain clarity through writing, you know, through starting, through beginning. So rather than waiting for clarity, you write for that clarity. And you'll be at a different, you know, everyone will be at different stages at the moment. You may have started to write a book already. You may just have like the faintest glimpse of an idea of what you want to write about. The only way that you will gain clarity is to begin to follow the breadcrumbs of inspiration, like create the space and start writing and allowing whatever wants to come through. And it will most likely lead you in unexpected directions. Some of the other Unbound writers that you'll be meeting during this training today thought they were going to be writing about one thing and have ended up writing about something completely different, or through a completely different lens, which they could never have imagined if they were just trying to figure it all out at the beginning. So you have to give yourself permission to kind of step into the unknown and begin your writing journey without having it all mapped out. And that makes it transformational in itself. So if you don't know right now, if you don't feel you have it kind of all figured out, that is absolutely perfect. It's the most powerful place to be. It's a place of possibility. Maybe you believe that writing a book will take too much time. And I know this can be a biggie. Again, this is something that I hear a lot. But actually, when you make a really clear and true commitment to your book and you create this kind of energetic container within which it can take form, your book can come through much more quickly than you expect. You can write in ways where it doesn't have to take huge expanses of time. You can write in really small and mighty chunks of time. That's what I tend to do. And you can write in different ways. Like writing doesn't always look like actually sitting down and writing. A lot of the authors that I work with, you know, they will dictate words. maybe when they're out for a walk or at different points during their day. So they're accessing content for their book, even when maybe there are other things going on around them. So it can come through in these really fluid and flexible ways that don't take as much time as you might imagine. There's this idea that you have to kind of be sitting chained to your desk for hours every day to write a book. And in my experience of working with many, many different writers over the past few years, no, your book can come through with unexpected ease. And again, I'm using that word very mindfully. I don't mean it's going to be easy, but there can be ease that comes into the process. And this is about honoring your own kind of ebbs and flows of energy. It's not about kind of writing rigidly every day, having to spend like hours or time every day writing your book. You can do it in a much more flexible and fluid way, which means you can almost write your book without knowing you're doing it. I hear that a lot as well. It's like, oh, all of a sudden I come to the end of writing my manuscript. How did that happen? It's like, it's the Unbound way. Oh, I skipped past the last slide. Let me just go back to it. Oh dear, there we go. What was, I couldn't remember what it was, so I had to go back to it. Okay, one of the other doubts that could come up is surely it's more important to focus on activities that have greater income producing potential. Actually, I don't think you would say it in that way. But, you know, this is something that can come up. It's like, I would like to write a book, but really I want to focus on bringing some cash in right now because I want to be creating an abundant income. And you know, if you're focusing on book sales alone, then writing a book is not necessarily going to bring in a huge amount of income unless you are kind of like one of the top bestsellers. But there are lots of other ways that writing a book can create income in terms of attracting clients to you, providing inspiration for other offerings that you may provide, group programs, retreats, workshops, which can be in person and online, different kinds of events, one-to-one work. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about this later on, but I very much encourage the writers I work with to start sharing elements of their writing and also like taking their audience behind the scenes of their writing journey right from the beginning of the process. So you're creating this sense of interest in what you're doing, and you have the opportunity to begin attracting clients and creating income right from the beginning of your book writing journey. And that's certainly been the case for me, and many of the writers that I've worked with have used their books and their writing as inspiration and ways of creating deeper connection with their community and bringing clients both one-to-one and in group processes into their business. So your book can have a huge amount of income producing potential, and it can just create the most unexpected and magical opportunities. I never thought that I'd be running a publishing imprint, which now creates the majority of the income in my business. And it's an opportunity that came to me through writing my second book, Unbound. It's like it was gifted to me. And when it came, it's like, yeah, this is what I've always meant to have been doing, but I had no idea. And it could only come to me through writing the book. So when you step forward onto this path, all sorts of magical opportunities can present themselves. And I don't want you to deprive yourself of those. Okay, now we can move on to the next slide. So I want to show you how these fears, doubts, and stories are irrelevant when you choose to write Unbound, because so much of what we do during the unbound writing process is about turning all of these fears and doubts on their heads. But what is unbound writing? So unbound writing is to write from your unbound self, which is the fullest, freest you, who has no inclination to hold back, edit, or dim her light. I don't know why there aren't more commas in that sentence. Just thinking, I'm a writer, and yeah, this is not about getting it perfect, by the way. Yeah. But hopefully that makes sense without the commas that should be in there. This doesn't mean that you won't have any inclination to hold back during your writing process. But the intention is that we are always wanting to write from this unbound place, or we are being willing to write from the unbound place, and we notice any kind of inclination to hold back, and that actually becomes fuel for the writing process. It's a way of connecting with and activating others through what you express. So it really creates this deep and rich sense of connection. And it's as much about kind of the energy which comes through your words as the words that you're writing. It's to channel the voice of your soul onto the page, giving her a place to speak, play, and experiment. Okay, so really allowing your soul to be expressed in the world. It's allowing your writing to be an alchemical process. You are transformed as you write, and that creates the space for your readers to experience their own powerful transformation. Amazing. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the training. So before we dive into the 4 stages, I want to introduce you to Tara. This is Tara Jackson, who was a member of the Unbound Writing Mastermind the very first time I ran it, back in 2018, before we even launched the Unbound Press. And I'd never run the Writing Mastermind before. I'd never worked with writers before. I'd never held space for people to write their books, but I was feeling this calling and I acted on it. And I remember saying to each of the women who stepped into that first round of the Unbound Writing Mastermind, look, I'm not a book coach. I've never done this before, but I know I can hold space for powerful transformation. So do you want to come on this journey with me? And Tara was one of those who was immediately like, yes. Stepped into the process and also became one of our first Unbound Press authors with her book Embodied, which you can see there. And I have just received the manuscript for her second book, which is going to be released through the Unbound Press, Embodied Business, which came through super quickly. Like once she'd written this first book, the second book was like, I'm ready. And I think she wrote it in about 2 weeks, which is just amazing. It doesn't always happen like that, but it's certainly possible. And Tara, you can see from what she's written here about her unbound writing journey being this truly alchemical experience. Like during, she was part of the Unbound Writing Mastermind when it ran for 6 months. Now it's open-ended, and once you join, you're a lifetime member. But during the 6 months that Tara was a member, she faced and healed many parts of her childhood story, which she'd been resisting and putting off. And for a long time during the writing process of Embodied, she would say that I'm not sure if this, I think this might just be for me. I don't know if it's actually meant to go out into the world, but I'm having this amazing kind of healing and transformational experience. So, you know, maybe it is just for me to have this experience, and that's enough. And it was only right at the end of the 6 months that it was like, no, this book's meant to go out into the world. And certainly when I read the manuscript, it's like, it definitely needs to go out. And she did. And a lot of or quite often when I'm working with writers, there can be this fear when we're writing about our personal experiences and our personal stories. It's like, oh, I don't know what people in my life may feel about this and what will people think of me. But actually, what it created for Tara was this opportunity for deep healing with both within herself and in relationships that she was writing about in the book. So rather than it turning into something that creates conflict, very often, particularly when we write in this unbound way, it can create deep healing. And like I said, you know, this has now cleared the way for Tara's second book, which will be released later this year. And she's also a member of the Unbound Press team now, which is completely magical, helping us to support other authors. So she said, you know, this process has been so transformative in her life. And I hear this time and time again. So if you have any fears and doubts about, oh, I want to write about something and it's really personal and I don't know what people will think of me, and maybe that it will create judgment and conflict, just know that it can be this really deeply healing process for you. So I want to move on and introduce you to the 4 specific stages to writing the book you are really here to write at this time. Once you know these stages, you'll be able to move forward with your book writing confidently, you know, with this complete confidence, trusting that whatever you're experiencing is exactly what you need to at any moment. And this is absolutely priceless. And I've highlighted the word trusting there because really, I see this whole Unbound writing process as one of cultivating like radical self-trust. You just know whatever's happening, even if it's feeling challenging, even if there are times when it feels like nothing is coming through, that it is all part of your unique process and it is all adding to the richness of what you are creating with your book. So stage 1 is to commit. And I love this quote. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favour all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which no man or woman could have dreamed would have come his or her way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. Begin it now. Yes. Boldness has genius. You know, this is what I was talking about when I was saying you gain clarity through the writing process. There is so much genius in like making this commitment to yourself. So what do I mean by making a commitment? Because maybe you feel that you've made a commitment before to writing your book, but you've got distracted from it, or you're finding yourself stuck or procrastinating. Well, this stage is really about making a clear declaration to yourself, to the universe, and at least one other person that you are writing your book. Okay. It removes doubt and creates a container for your book to unfold. So when you make this commitment, and the reason I put to at least one other person, I feel there is so much power in being witnessed and having a sense of accountability. In the Unbound Writing Mastermind, like every week we have an accountability thread, and some of the writers who are part of the mastermind have resisted that when they first come in. It's like, oh, I don't like the word accountability, because, you know, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with that. But I'm inviting you to really take radical responsibility for your book, for creating it, for completing it, and for sharing it in the world. And accountability is really key when it comes to that. If you don't share your idea with at least one other person, it's all too easy to get distracted, and you'll know that you're not kind of fulfilling on this dream, this desire that you have, which is, you know, that's really uncomfortable in itself. But when somebody else knows, you know, they'll keep checking in with you, or you can ask them to keep checking in with you. Okay, so that's really important in terms of removing doubt, and creates like this energetic container for your book to unfold. It's like then your book, and I believe that your book is like this other entity that is just waiting to be birthed through you. And when you make this commitment, it's like, okay, I'm going to start giving you the ideas now. This stage also involves choosing to inhabit your being as a writer, the author of your book, someone who has something of value to share. And again, this is a process. It's not something that you can immediately switch on, but I want you to start like really experimenting with calling yourself an author, like telling people that you are writing a book, like really anchoring into that sense that you do have something of value to share. As I said, it's no accident if you're feeling this call. So what would it mean to you to really inhabit your being as a writer? What do you need to put in place to do that? One of the things you may want to put into place is, you know, deciding what kind of support you want. So that may be, it could be like an accountability buddy. When I wrote my first book, Heal Your Inner Good Girl, I teamed up with a friend who was writing her first book at the time, and we would meet up on Zoom. It wasn't Zoom actually, it was Skype back then, once a week, just to check in with how we were doing. We made that commitment to each other, and if I hadn't had that, I probably wouldn't have finished Heal Your Inner Good Girl. So it's really powerful to have, like I said, at least one other person you're making that commitment to. But you can amplify that sense of commitment when you make it to more than one person. So yes, you may have an accountability buddy, you may hire a book coach or a mentor to work with. You may become part of a writing circle, a writing group, something like the Unbound Writing Mastermind, where you're in community with many other writers who are all on the same journey. Within the Unbound Writing Mastermind, everyone's at different stages of their journey, so it kind of carries you along in the most beautiful way. But, you know, when you're writing a book that is transformational, you are going to want to have some kind of support in place to help you move beyond the challenges that will come up. So that's stage one, commit. And I wonder what it would take for you to make that commitment right now, or to recommit to the process of writing your book. Stage two is to conceive. I just want to say with these stages, I'm going through them like stage 1, 2, 3, 4. And it kind of makes sense for me to talk about them, and probably initially you will move through them in that kind of linear way. But actually, it's likely that you will spiral around all of these stages throughout your book writing journey. So it's not like kind of you do one, then you move on to the next, and you move on to the next, and then they're done. You know, you will revisit them at different times, and maybe you could revisit all of these stages in one day. You'll be continually recommitting to your book writing process. And this stage of conceive, and this is about conceiving the ideas that want to come through in your book. This is something that will be an ongoing process as well. So this is about unlocking the book that wants to come through at this time. And these are very specific times we're living in. I don't know if you noticed. So, you know, the books that are being written at this time are super powerful. And there are so many women I know who've been thinking about writing a book, you know, for the past few years. And actually, as we've moved into this year, as we're moving into this year, in these times, they're like, oh, I need to do it now, because the energy of these times is really infusing the books and the writing experience, the writing process, with the most potent energy. So as I've been talking about, this is not about writing any book, it's writing the book, the specific book that is wanting to come through you at this time. The specific book that is going to activate the deepest level of transformation for you and your readers. This stage of conceive is also about providing the right conditions for conception, the right conditions for conceiving your book. So this is likely to be something like spaciousness, creating space for your book, allowing yourself to be inspired, like what inspires you? Like how can you make space for yourself as a writer and for your book? What helps you to feel inspired? Like for me, that's always kind of being out in nature and movement. Normally walking in nature, that is when my ideas will start to flow. What is that for you? What conditions do you need? And for you to be in that place of receptivity, like the way I approach writing, the whole Unbound writing process, it's not about like trying to figure it out from up here in our minds. It's about allowing whatever wants to come through and being open to that, being open to receive it and kind of bring it through onto the page. And as I've been saying as well, you know, you gain clarity through writing. Your book will evolve throughout the process, and you move between these different stages throughout the process as well. So it's, I always like to think of it as a spiral. The logo for the Unbound Press is a spiral, and it's for this very reason. We kind of spiral more deeply into ourselves through the writing process. So my question to you in this stage is, you know, what are the conditions you need in order to conceive, to be open to receive the book that wants to come through you? I'm going through these quite quickly just to give you a taste of what they are, so you can start to work through them. Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to go into them more deeply, there are ways that you can do that, which we'll talk about towards the end. Stage 3 is create. So this is when you're kind of in the creative process, you are actually creating your book. And it's also about creating a writing practice that works for you. And everyone has their own unique way of writing. So I don't want you to feel that you have to do it in the way that other people are doing it, or the way you've been told that you should do it. It's about letting go of the shoulds and finding your own unique way, and trusting that whatever is coming through is exactly what needs to emerge. Okay, really allowing that unknowing. I just want to, before we move on to the piece about prioritizing your writing, divine discipline, just, you know, that part about unknowing is really important. In order to know, you first have to allow yourself not to know. So we don't want to rush to knowing during this Unbound writing process. We don't want to force it from mind level. We want to allow the space for the truest essence of what wants to come through you to come. And that will mean there will be times during your writing process where it feels like, I don't think I've got anything. I just have no clue what I'm meant to write about next. And I don't know if what I've written already makes sense. You know, it will feel like that at times, but it is all part of the process. And that it's a natural part of the process to have these times of unknowing when you are creating in this really transformational way. We just haven't been taught that. So it always cycles back round, and you will come back into a place of knowing, but you have to allow the not knowing first. something that you need to do during this stage is, like I say, prioritize your writing. And I encourage the writers that I work with to practice what I call divine discipline. So if you're anything like me, the word discipline may have you running for the hills. It's like, oh, that sounds too like someone's forcing me to do something. But with divine discipline, this is something I talk about in my second book, Unbound. We choose to be disciplined in service to something greater. So you choose to show up for your book in service to, it could be in service actually to your book and the essence of the book that is wanting to be expressed through you. It could be in service to source, to God, to the goddess, to your higher self, you know, whatever it is for you, you've made that commitment and you show up in this disciplined way. And again, that can be fluid and flexible. We can have a sense of discipline and not have to do it kind of really rigidly. But yeah, it's about showing up for yourself and your book in this powerful way, knowing that you are doing it in service to something greater. Also, in the Unbound writing process, we write in alignment with your cyclical nature. So it's really about honoring the ebbs and flows, the very natural ebbs and flows that you will have in your energy, in your creativity, and not feeling that you have to show up in the same way every day or every week even. So allowing times where, you know, allowing times for rest, knowing that at times you will feel very inspired and really be kind of actively writing. Other times you may feel more like in planning mode or editing mode. And it's all good. It's really harnessing the cyclical nature of your writing. Basically, this stage of creating, being in creation, is about allowing and trusting your unique process. And the Unbound writing approach is all about finding your own unique way. And also the unique way that your book wants to come through, because each book wants to be created differently, and you may find there's quite a change between one book and another. So maybe your first book wants to come through in a particular way and the second book is quite different. You know, I was talking about Tara Jackson earlier. Her first book she wrote over the 6 months. The second book just came through. It started calling to her, and then when she sat down to write it, it took about 2 weeks to come through. So each book will demand something different of us, and it's important that we listen and honor that. Stage 4 is about community. So I alluded to this already when we were talking about kind of audience size and writing a book, but the Unbound writing process really is about creating a community or a sense of movement, or creating a movement around your book as you write it. And you can see in this image, it's like some of the different kind of elements of the Unbound community that I've created around my writing and the Unbound Press. So I really encourage you to start doing this from as early on as possible, to share your writing as you go, like create this sense of interest and anticipation. And sometimes there can be this fear of like, oh, I don't want to share my writing as I go because then people won't want to buy my book. But actually, it just creates more interest. And you can share actually about your writing process, you know, how you're writing your book, what's coming up for you as you're writing your book. All of this is going to create connection. People love to be taken behind the scenes. So you create this sense of interest as you are writing your book. And your book becomes a platform for other offerings and sharing your magic in different ways. You know, some of these images that I'm sharing here, like a couple of them have been taken on retreats that I've run that have been related to my writing, like books that I've written. And actually one of them was a writing retreat as well, and one of them was taken at an Unbound Writing workshop that we ran with the Unbound Press. So like these books, sorry, getting distracted by the images there, looking at the glorious beings that are in them. When you write a book, it's not just about the book, it's about what you want to create around that, your vision for what you want to create around your book, the different offerings that you feel called to share, which may be working one-to-one or within groups or speaking, and your book becomes this gorgeous platform for that. And again, you can start this before the book is out in the world. I've certainly run retreats and events, and been working one-to-one with clients and in groups whilst I've been writing different books, like using the inspiration that is coming up as I'm writing to infuse my offerings with this magic. It's really about honoring and celebrating your book as you write it, and absolutely once it's released into the world as well. And also it becomes, when you do this, when you share about your writing as you go, it becomes this gorgeous dynamic process, because you're receiving kind of feedback and comments around what you're sharing as you're writing it, or questions, and then you can bring that into your writing and what you're writing about. So rather than it just coming from you, you're actually getting inspiration from your community as you're writing. So I want you to be thinking about, what kind of community do you want to create? If you were going to start a movement with your book, what would it be? These are the kind of questions that help to kind of create momentum and actually carry you through your writing process. If you're writing in community, then that's going to carry you through when things feel challenging. So I want to introduce you to another Unbound writer. This is Ali Rowe, who again has been part of the Unbound Writing Mastermind, and she also came on the Magical Portal Writing Retreat that I hosted earlier this year, and I've worked with Ali one-to-one. And when I first started working with Ali, she thought she was going to write one book, and actually through the Unbound Writing process, she realized that it was a completely different book than what to come through her, which was much kind of deeper and richer, and really expressed always helped her to express deeper levels of her unique gift, what she's here to share in the world. And now she's creating the most amazing work around that and community around that as she is in the process of writing this book. And she says, Unbound Writing has helped guide me to and embody my creatrix, which I love that word. Yeah, and this is a part of her that Ali feels she really rejected and misunderstood for the longest amount of time. But now she's able to welcome her and support so much joy and self-trust and love into her every day, which is just amazing. And Ali's really enjoyed being part of the Unbound Writing Mastermind. That sense of sisterhood, she talks about it there, how she's bloomed and witnessed others bloom within the mastermind, within that circle of Unbound Writing sisters. And it's just been such a joy, and continues to be a joy, to work with Ali. Her book Essential Feminine will be coming out. No, she's in the process of finishing it right now, so I should imagine next year sometime. But what I want you to kind of have a sense of knowing of here is that actually the actual writing process can have so much richness. So it's not just about the end result, it's the whole process that's incredibly powerful. So, how do you write in a way that makes the most powerful impact? And I have been kind of alluding to this, speaking to this all the way through. But you have to be willing to allow yourself to be transformed by the very process of writing your book. So it becomes this dynamic process. It's not just kind of sit at a desk and think your book into existence. You live it into existence. When you're writing your book, you go fast. Okay, so the unbound writer is willing to go first and create the space for your reader to be transformed by your writing. So as you are writing and you're allowing yourself to have this transformational experience, you're clearing the way for your reader to experience the same. Your writing becomes infused with this really powerful energy. As I've said here, it changes the energy of your writing, and your readers can feel that. So it's not all about the words that you're writing. They feel this transformational energy. It activates something in them when they read it. And that's what creates a really deep connection with your readers. And that's what will attract, you know, if you're looking to attract clients for your writing, this is what attracts clients to you. It's about transmuting your experience into gold. And what we do during the unbound writing process is, you know, when things are coming up for you, when something feels challenging, when there are fears or doubts that are coming up, rather than pushing them away or just trying to kind of put the blinkers on and move through them, we welcome them into your writing process. It's like, no, this is the gold. Because if something's coming up for you, it's very likely that your reader is experiencing something similar or the same thing. So you invite it into your writing, you write your way through it, and that's what creates the gold of truly compelling writing. So when you see it like that, when you feel it like that, kind of any fears or doubts you're experiencing, rather than making them mean, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, it's like, no, this is like the most powerful fuel for my writing. This is going to make my writing so rich and juicy and kind of magnetic to my soul family readers. Oh yeah, it's that's really exciting. So let's take a moment to breathe. I've just shared a lot with you. I'm aware that that's a lot. So I just invite you to take a moment. You might want to close your eyes and just take a breath. Just allow everything you've just heard to land within you. And maybe there was just one kind of key piece of that you really needed to hear. Just noticing what that is. Maybe everything you've just heard has given you this sense of knowing in your body that yes, this is your time to write that book that is really wanting to come through you. Just breathing into all of that now. And as you open your eyes, if you have them closed, I just want to ask you, what would it be like to write the book that changes your life? And yeah, I'm not talking about change for change's sake. I'm talking about the change I'm talking about is becoming more you, basically. Like moving more deeply into yourself, really living your gift and bringing the unique magic, the unique medicine that you are here to share with the world at this time. You know, what do you want to create with and around your book? What is your unbound vision for your book? Are you feeling the call And you probably are. That's probably why you are watching this in the first place. But if you have been feeling that call, I have an invitation for you to commit to yourself as an author, and also to commit to the book you're here to write at this time. You know, would it feel good to own the fact that yes, you are a writer, and you absolutely are? Finally allow yourself to write the books, because I'm sure there's more than one, you're really here to write, all whilst growing an eager audience of soul family readers. Even if you're not entirely clear what you're here to share yet. Like I said, if you're not completely clear, that is such an amazing place of possibility. I would like to invite you to become part of the Unbound Writing Mastermind. I've been talking about it a little bit throughout this class, and it's a deeply creative and transformational group process, which is specifically designed to help you do just that, you know, to write the book you're here to write at this time, and the books that want to come after that. So the Unbound Writing Mastermind is designed to help you write the specific book that's wanting to come through you, to make a committed space for your writing in a way that gives you the freedom to honor your unbound cyclical nature, always. To grow a passionate audience of readers for your book as you write. That's a really important part of the Unbound Writing process. To uncover and shift the old restrictive stories and beliefs about how and who you should be in the world, so you can share your unbound voice. And write a book that transforms you as well as your readers. And like I said, what we're talking about here is really moving more deeply into yourself and who you are here to be in the world. How does that sound? These are some of the things that people have said about being part, or are saying about being part of the Writing Mastermind. Jessie Paston, whose book Release the Wild Within is going to be released later this year. Again, Jessie has had the most amazingly healing experience from being part of the mastermind in terms of writing her book, but also of being part of that kind of creative sisterhood. Sisterhood was something, or being in community with other women is something that Jessie resisted and had fear around for a long, long time, many, many years. And I think many of us can resonate with that. We've had experiences or fears around being in groups with other women, which meant that we've resisted that, and we've been trying to do it on our own. And Jessie has actually healed a lot around that, kind of the sister wounds that a lot of us can carry by being part of the Unbound Writing Mastermind, which is amazing. And you can see some of the other things that people have written here about being part of the mastermind. It's so much more than just a book writing process. And when you join the mastermind now, like I said, it used to run over 6 months, but at the moment when you join, you get lifetime membership of the mastermind, because I wanted to create a space which will support authors through the whole of their book writing journey, like from one book to another. So, you know, you have that space held for you as you write the different books that are wanting to come through you, that you're here to share. So when you join the Unbound Writing Mastermind, you get immediate access to a whole host of specialist masterclasses about every aspect of writing a book and how to share your book and your writing in the most powerful way. You get access to a monthly group coaching call with me. And this is very much like, says it on the name, it's a mastermind. So as well, you know, I will obviously speak to any questions or challenges that you're experiencing, but also you get insights and inputs from the other members of the group, which is just so, so powerful. We have at the moment 2 Unbound Writing sessions a month where we come together on Zoom as a group, and you have the opportunity to write in community, which is just deceptively powerful. It's very simple, but they're just such powerful sessions, and we may well be increasing the number of Unbound Writing sessions. So at the moment there's 2, but that may change in the future. You get access to weekly writing prompts and accountability. The Unbound Writers Facebook group, which I know that a lot of us, Facebook may not be your favorite place, but the Facebook group for the Unbound Writing Mastermind is just so magical and supportive. You also, when you join the Unbound Writing Mastermind now, you get access to special rates for any publishing packages with the Unbound Press. You don't have to publish your book with the Unbound Press when you come through the Unbound Writing Mastermind, but very often writers find that when they've been through, when they're writing their books within the container of the mastermind, I get to know your book and you really well, and it's very likely that you'll resonate deeply with the mission, the vision of the Unbound Press. So very often it's a good fit, and if it is for you, then you get access to special rates so that we can make that happen. And also right now when you join, you get access to a couple of bonuses, one of which is 12 months membership of the Glow Visibility Mastermind, which is my visibility mastermind for writers, healers, transformational coaches and mentors. So that helps you to kind of really grow your audience, your community, and connect more deeply with your people through the writing process. And you also get immediate access to the Unbound Book Cloud, which is a 4-week writing workshop designed to help you gain unstoppable clarity and momentum on your book writing journey. So I encourage all of the Unbound writers to work through that at the beginning of your process to really get you started in the most powerful way. So I would love you to come and join us over there to find out more and claim your space in this creative sisterhood, which is really like no other. You can go to nicolahumber.com/the-unbound-writing-mastermind. Head over there now and take a look. You'll see that there are 3 different options. That the main option is the one that I've just been speaking about. There is the option to include a publishing package with the Unbound Press right from the outset. And also there's an option to include some one-to-one mentoring with me. And for both of those, they're by application, so you can click through and start the process for that. But whatever you decide, I would be so delighted to hold space for you and your Unbound writing journey, because the world absolutely needs the unique magic that you're here to share. And yeah, like I said, if you're feeling the call to write a book, it is no accident. So I am going to stop sharing and come back to me. Ooh, I'm quite hot after that. Yeah, it's been great. It's been great connecting with you. If you have any questions about anything that I've shared, do get in touch. You can come find me over on Instagram. I'm at Nicola Humber, or you can send me an email. I'm nicola@nicolahumber.com. I really hope to see you in the mastermind and to see what wants to emerge from your book writing journey. Here's to being your fullest, freest self and sharing your unique magic with the world. See you soon.